All right. Good morning, everyone. Today we have a presentation on why do we watch true crime shows and what are we seeking. So let's begin. So starting with the introduction, nowadays we see like true crime shows have been becoming more popular on all networks, both streaming and conventional. And usually like the top podcast on Apple and Spotify have been true crime shows. A recent study has shown that more than 50% of Americans enjoy true crime content and 35% of Americans consume true crime content at least once a week. 72% of Americans say that they consume true crime media because they believe it makes them more informed about the world. But is that true? There's also an interesting thing that true crime stories appeal to women much more as compared to men. Now, research is showing that it appeals to women more because women are more likely to be victims of crime, and by watching this, they can learn how to avoid that, and it can teach women to be prepared in case they are ever in a situation. Our true crime obsession likely stems from combined desire for control and for new experiences or stories. Now, let us look at some of the reasons why we watch true crime shows. So, first is reassuring narrative formula. Many murder mysteries show a tried and true narrative formula, which provides a reassuring sense of conflict and resolution for the viewers. Usually, a horrible crime happens, clues are left behind, and hopefully, the killer is caught and brought to justice. The story of victim is often tragically familiar and human with situations that all of us could easily fall into. Forensic analysis and detective work provide a fascinating analytical puzzle for the viewers to follow along. And finally, the hope of a terrible person being captured and convicted for the crimes gives us a sense of relief and closure when it happens. It is simple but foolproof formula that never gets old and provides a sort of a sane satisfaction to the viewers each time. Next point is it reinforces a moral sense of clarity. It provides a moral structures for the viewers that can be appealing, straightforward, and remind us of our own humanity. The fact that we feel revulsion and horror at what happens to the helpless victims jolts our own sense of empathy for them and what they have gone through, and a genuine wish to see the cruel offenders who have caused them harm to get into trouble. We may even get a rush from the outrage and anger at what the criminal has done. The stakes are clear and give us a strong sense of right and wrong in the otherwise murky vagueness or even boredom of our most trivial everyday lives. We really want the good guys to win and catch the bad guys. Moving on to the next point. Now, it reminds us of our relative luck. During periods of recent personal grief and trauma, these shows can either go away for the viewers. They can be more difficult to watch because the morality is too familiar, or they can be oddly supportive because the circumstances of the crime are often so terrible if we compare our own suffering to them. At least we have people in our lives we can trust and love who will not harm us. And these are the thoughts that can actually like come into our minds when we watch these shows. We try to feel more anchoring and appreciative in our lives by seeing how precious it truly can be. Next point is vicarious participation in the forbidding. Now, these shows can provide thrills not unlike those of horror films. Now, watching the darkest type of violence and trauma in a safe distance and can create like sort of thrill or like tension. Like humans still have these tendencies to walk and rubberneck at the disaster happening at arm's length, a twisted way to perhaps remind us of our own fragility and existence. Now, more understandably and less dehumanizing is our wish to play detective and solve the cases for ourselves without having to attend a police academy. So, that is something that can play into it. And lastly, we better learn to educate ourselves on dark triad personalities. So, true crime shows cater to our all human fears regarding the presence of selfish, dark, and evil impulses lurking in people we sometimes trust and even love. Perhaps by watching any potential warning signs and sociopathic behaviors in the wolves that hides in the sheep's clothing, we feel we can educate and even save ourselves from falling prey to suspicious characters. Yet sometimes we are also horrified that there are many indeed be no warning signs that some of these killers are strikingly normal in how they live their life before that inner psychopath or sociopath emerges. Now, next, Nafia will carry forward.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be taking over from here. Experiencing something dangerous without actually being in it. Our true crime obsession likely stems from a combined desire for control and for new experiences or stories. Whether it's good or bad, we need something that creates an element of excitement. When we mix this desire with insight and solving a puzzle, it can give us a sharp shock of adrenaline, but in a relatively safe environment. Stories, especially true stories, teach us about other people and how to keep ourselves safe in the world. It allows us to experience and learn from terrible things without ever being in real danger. Consumption of true crime is likely a subconscious effort to protect and educate oneself. Some women say that they have a healing experience when watching true crime. So, a lot of victims in the audience, domestic violence survivors, or other victims of crimes that didn't really see justice in their own lived experience, can listen to these narratives and see that they are not alone. Who'd Unit Who'd Unit, a colloquial allusion of who has done it, is a complex plot driven variety of detective fiction in which the puzzle regarding who committed the crime is the main focus. People also enjoy true crime partially because of the puzzle or mystery solving aspect of the genre. Scott Pan, a criminology professor, says by following an investigation on TV, people can play armchair detective and see if they can figure out who'd unit before law enforcement authorities catch the actual perpetrator. People also receive a jolt of adrenaline as a reward for witnessing the terrible deeds. Adrenaline is a powerful hormone that produces a stimulating and addictive effect on the human brain. If you doubt the addictive power of adrenaline, think of the thrill seeking child who will ride a roller coaster over and over until he or she becomes physically ill. The euphoric effect of true crime on human emotions is similar to that of roller coasters or natural disasters. The public is drawn to true crime because it triggers the most basic and powerful emotion in all of us, and that is fear. As a source of popular culture entertainment, it allows us to experience fear and horror in a controlled environment where the threat is exciting but not real. For example, the stories of real life killers are often for adults what monster movies are for children. Encourage advocacy. Some viewers feel that true crime obsession positively impacts the legal system. It can encourage advocacy and shine a spotlight on cases involving marginalized individuals. However, there's a flip side to this as well. With the increased interest in true crime, juries and lay people may have preconceived notions about crime, justice, and those who perpetrate crime. Our obsession does have an effect on the court system in both positive and negative ways. It can encourage public advocacy that illuminates the cases of marginalized defendants or victims. Yet, the escalation of sensationalized stories also means that juries have preconceived notions about how crimes happen, how investigations unravel, and how justice is delivered. Impact on mental health. It can all be too easy to get lost in the kind of grisly tales that nightmares are made of, and what started out as a hobby born of curiosity can easily take a toll on one's mental health. Watching true crime doesn't make one strange or weird, it's human nature to be inquisitive. True crime appeals to us because we get a glimpse into the mind of a real person who has committed a heinous act. Shows that focus on murder and rape can really take one to a bad place. They can help become more vigilant and aware, but not become overly reactive to the point where one is not leaving the house, socializing, or functioning. It's not just the true crime stories that can impact our mind. Fictionalized depictions of crime can be just as captivating and have similar impacts as well. Some of the impact on mental health on watching true crime is feeling scared all the time. It can cause us to isolate and not fully live our lives. Feeling unsafe at home, just as crime content can make one feel unsafe out in the world, it can also affect how someone feels safe in their own home. Being wary of others, constantly consuming stories that reveal the worst parts of humanity, one can start to doubt the humanity of the people around. Being anxious all the time, too much true crime ceases to be about curiosity and starts becoming fear based instead. Double checking and feeling suspicious. If one is double checking and rechecking locks and doors, consider whether the true crime habit has started to interfere with their life. We now have a short quiz. Please feel free to share your answers. Which gender tends to watch true crime shows more? A. Males. B. Females. C. Both A and B equally. That's right, it's females. Thank you everyone for answering. Which of the following is the reason why people watch true crime shows? A. It reinforces a sense of moral clarity. B. It helps us to get educated about the dark triad personalities. And C is both A and B. Yes, that's right. It's both A and B. Thank you. The last one. Which of the following is a psychological impact of watching too much crime shows? A. Becoming wary of others. B. Anxiety decreases. C. There is no psychological impact of watching too much crime shows. That's right, it's becoming wary of others. Thank you, everyone, for answering.